You know, I've been sitting on this porch for near about 50 years now, watching the sun set over these same hills. And I still remember the day Cole Morgan rode into Cedar Ridge. Some stories need telling because they're exciting. Some need telling because they're important. This one needs telling because it reminds us what we're capable of when life knocks us flat. It was 1880 back when a dollar meant something and a man's word meant everything. The West was still wild enough to kill you, but tame enough to let you build something worth having. Cole was running from ghosts. Claire was drowning in grief. And those two little girls, Lord, those girls needed someone to show them the world still had good in it. This is how broken people learn to trust again. The cemetery gate squealed like it always did, 3 months of rust since Daniel's burial, and nobody had thought to oil it. Cole Morgan stood at the grave with dirt under his fingernails from digging through his saddlebags for that water-stained letter. The wooden marker was already weathering, letters going soft at the edges. Daniel Morgan, 1847 to 1880, beloved husband and father. His younger brother, 3 months in the ground. If something happens to me, find Claire and the girls. Promise me. Cole. That's what the letter said. Cole had read it so many times the paper was soft as cloth where his thumbs held it. He'd practiced what to say to the widow. But now, standing here with the meadowlarks calling and the smell of fresh earth from other graves, every word had dried up like summer creek beds. You're him. Cole's hand moved toward his colt old habit from bad years before he saw her. A woman in blue calico, the kind of dress his Margaret used to wear to church, arms full of school books that looked heavy enough to break her in half. Ma'am. He took his hat off, felt the sun hit his scalp where the hair was getting thin. Sarah Wright, I teach school here. She shifted those books, looking him up and down with eyes that didn't miss much. Daniel helped raise my schoolhouse. Wouldn't take payment. Just asked that his girls get their learning. You heading out to see Claire? Soon as I figure what to say to a woman whose husband died of fever 50 miles from home. Sarah's laugh was bitter as black coffee. How about the truth that the cattle money never made it back? And Thomas Aldrich at the bank is circling her homestead like a buzzard after a sick calf. The morning had been warming up nice, but now Cole felt cold clear through. Daniel's letter didn't mention trouble. Daniel's letters were full of hope and promises, same as he was. Her voice went soft as butter left in the sun. Good man, your brother. But hope doesn't pay mortgages, and that's what Claire needs, mortgage money, not hope. How bad? 3 months behind, Aldrich visits weekly, offering to help. Each time he stands a little closer, talks a little softer. Sarah's jaw went tight. Claire's too proud to see what kind of help he's really offering. Cole studied the grave again. The earth had sunk some it always did after the first rains. Daniel would have hated being planted here instead of back home in Missouri where Mama lay. The girls, Cole asked. 8 years old. Twins, though you'd never know it to look at them. Emma's got her daddy's stubborn streak and won't let anyone see her cry. Rose, Sarah paused, pulled a handkerchief from her sleeve, dabbed her eyes. Rose hasn't spoken a word since the news came. Not one word in 3 months. Cole had seen that before. Shock so deep it stole your voice. After Margaret and little James died. He hadn't spoken for 2 weeks himself. There's something else, Sarah said, glancing around though they were alone except for the dead. Daniel sent money back. Twice, $20 each time. And never arrived. Sheriff Burt says highway robbers. But funny thing, nobody else has lost mail. Just Claire's money from her dead husband. Now Cole's hand did find the gun butt, fingers remembering the worn walnut grip. You're saying someone in town? I'm saying nothing that could get me in trouble. But a smart man might wonder why Thomas Aldrich always knows when Claire can't make a payment, sometimes before she knows herself. Cole pulled out Daniel's compass, the one they'd carried through the war. The brass was worn smooth where their thumbs had rubbed it, checking direction through smoke and cannon fire. The needle swung, found north, held steady, still worked, even after all these years. Mr. Morgan? Sarah touched his sleeve gentle-like. Daniel used to say his brother was the best man he knew, just lost. Maybe getting found is why you're here." She walked away, sensible boots clicking on the stone path between graves. Cole stood there a while longer, listening to the meadowlarks and remembering how Daniel used to whistle their song while shaving. When hoofbeats sounded on the road, Cole didn't turn. He knew the sound of authority when it rode up. Cole Morgan, Sheriff. "Thought so. You look like Daniel, only more worn down." Sheriff Burt dismounted with a grunt that said his knees weren't what they used to be. "He talked about you. Said you were a lawman once." "Once? What happened?" Cole's silence was answer enough. Some things didn't need explaining to a man who wore a badge. "Well," the sheriff said, spitting tobacco juice polite-like away from the graves, "what matters is what you do now. You planning to stay? Long enough? That's vague. That's accurate." They stood there, two men who'd seen enough trouble to recognize it coming. The sheriff adjusted his gun belt, leather creaking like old bones. "You know about Claire's situation? Miss Wright filled me in. Sarah sees things clear, good woman, though she's got her own sorrows." The sheriff pulled out a flask, offered it. Cole shook his head. "Claire's pretty. She's alone. And she's got the best water rights in the valley. You understand what I'm saying? I understand someone's been stealing her money." The sheriff's face went dark as thunderclouds. "Can't prove that. Don't need to prove it to stop it. Now hold on, son. I'm nobody's son anymore. Sheriff, my folks are dead. My wife's dead. My boy's dead. And now my brother's dead." Cole put his hat back on, pulled it low. "But Daniel's family is alive, and he asked me to help them. That's what I aim to do." He swung up onto his horse, the saddle creaking familiar-like. It was the only thing he'd kept from his life before the saddle and the weight of promises to dead people. 3 miles west. Claire Morgan was setting the table for 4, the way she had every night since the news came. The 4th plate sat there like a prayer that might bring Daniel walking through the door, dusty from the trail but grinning about the money he'd brought home. Before we continue, please leave a like and subscribe. Let me know which city you're watching from. Now, let's get back to the story. The door opened before Cole could knock. Claire Morgan stood there with a shotgun, barrel pointed at his chest. Her knuckles were white on the wooden stock, but the barrel didn't waver. Behind her, 2 small faces peered around the doorframe, one stubborn-chinned, one wide-eyed and silent. "Mrs. Morgan." Cole kept his hands visible, moved slow. "I'm Cole Morgan, Daniel's brother." The shotgun slipped, hit the floor with a crack that made everyone jump. Claire's hand went to her mouth, fingers trembling against her lips. "He said you'd come." Her voice came out raw, like she hadn't used it much. "Said if something happened." Cole reached into his vest pocket. Claire tensed. He pulled out Daniel's watch, let the chain dangle so it caught the lamplight. The inscription on the back caught the light. "Forever yours, C." Claire's fingers closed around the warm metal. The weight pulled her hand down. She stood there, thumb rubbing across the inscription. Mama, the stubborn-chinned one, had to be Emma. "Is that Papa's watch?" Claire nodded. No words came. "There's $17 too." Cole pulled out the leather pouch, set it gentle on the table just inside the door. "His wages from the drive. Trail boss said he talked about you every night." Sheriff Burt appeared behind Cole, holding a canvas bundle. "These are the rest of his things. Claire, his boots fell apart. We buried him in his good shirt." The quiet one rose, flew down the stairs. She snatched the bundle from the sheriff's hands, pressed it to her face, breathing deep, looking for something that wasn't there anymore. "Rose, honey," Claire started. The girl was already running, bare feet slapping on wood. The bundle clutched against her chest like she could squeeze her daddy out of it. Her bedroom door slammed hard enough to shake dust from the rafters. Emma's eyes went flat as creek stones. She thinks it smells like him. It won't. Nothing does anymore. She looked straight at Cole. Chin up. "Papa said you'd come if we needed help. We need help. The plow's broke. Bessie's dried up, and Mr. Aldrich keeps coming around talking about options." "Emma," red flooded Claire's cheeks. "What, it's true? So I'm asking. Emma planted her feet, fists clenched. You staying? Cole's eyes caught on something there, barely visible under the family Bible on the mantel. Paper with official-looking print. First National Bank of Kansas letterhead showing at the edge. His eyes tracked to the mortgage notice, then to Claire's face. She saw him looking. The rooster hadn't crowed yet when Cole's eyes opened. 4:30, maybe 5. His back ached from sleeping against his saddle near the creek, dew soaking through his blanket. The cold had settled into his bones like it meant to stay. He stood slow, joints popping like green wood in a fire. The fence posts he'd checked yesterday wobbled worse than a drunk on Saturday night. Daniel's tools were under the porch. He'd seen Claire put them there, wrapped careful in oilcloth like they were treasure. The hammer handle was smooth from Daniel's grip, worn down where his thumb would rest. Cole pulled the first rotten post free. The wood came apart in his hands, soft as wet bread. No wonder the cattle had been pushing through. He'd seen the tracks yesterday, neighbor stock wandering in, eating what little grass Claire had left. He found a dead cottonwood by the creek, started shaping posts with Daniel's hatchet. Each strike rang sharp in the morning quiet. The rhythm felt good. Strike, turn, strike, turn. Like his body remembered what his mind had forgot about honest work. You always were an early riser? Cole's hand stilled mid-swing. Claire stood 10 feet away, shawl pulled tight, coffee mug steaming in her hands. Her boots were men's boots, Daniel's probably stuffed with what looked like newsprint to make them fit. Fence needed doing. That's my fence to fix. Was Daniel's fence. Cole gestured with the hatchet. These were his tools. Figure he'd want it done right. She stepped closer. The steam from her coffee rose between them like a veil. He bought those tools our first month here. Said a man needed proper equipment to build a proper life. Her voice caught on the word proper. Cole went back to work, setting a post, packing rocks around the base. The rocks were cold enough to burn his hands. Claire watched, not talking, just sipping that coffee that smelled strong enough to float horseshoes. Hoofbeats on the road made them both turn. Thomas Aldrich's bay mare probably cost more than most folks saw in 2 years. His suit didn't have a speck of trail dust, gold watch chain catching the first light. He swung down from that mare like he owned whatever ground his feet touched. Morning, Claire. His eyes found Cole, narrowed like he was sighting down a rifle. And you are? Working? Cole kept packing rocks, didn't look up. This is Mr. Morgan, Claire said. Daniel's brother. Aldrich's smile spread slow as spilled molasses. Ah, the brother. Come to help our dear Claire in her time of need. How generous. He stepped past Cole like he wasn't there, moved close to Claire. Too close. She backed up, caught her heel on a root, started to fall. Cole's hand caught her elbow, steadied her, then dropped away quick. My situation is fine. Mr. Aldrich? Claire's voice came out steady, but her hands shook on that coffee mug. Is it? Aldrich pulled out a handkerchief, wiped imaginary dust from his hands. Winter's coming. A woman alone. 2 children to feed. No money for supplies. No man to work the land. His voice dropped soft as snake oil. My offer stands. I'll buy you out for enough to get you and the girls back east. You could stay with family. Start fresh. I have no family back east. Then perhaps other arrangements. The lady said she's fine. Cole still hadn't looked up from the fence, but his voice carried an edge sharp enough to shave with. Aldrich's neck went red above his collar. I don't believe I was addressing you. Mr. Morgan, was it the Drifter brother? Cole straightened real slow, hammer loose in his hand. The brother who brought back $17 in wages. Funny thing about that money trail boss said he sent 2 other payments, $20 each time. Never arrived. The morning went dead quiet. Even the meadowlarks stopped singing. Are you suggesting? I'm fixing fence. Cole turned back to his work, drove a nail with one swing. Man could suggest all kinds of things. Could suggest someone at the bank might redirect mail. Could suggest that same someone might pressure a widow when she's grieving. Could suggest lots of things. But I'm just here to fix fence. Aldrich's hand twitched toward his coat pocket. Cole's hammer stopped mid-swing, held casual but ready. Mama Emma stood on the porch, barefoot despite the cold, something hidden behind her back. The moment broke like thin ice. Aldrich stepped back, straightened his coat with sharp tugs. "I'll return next week. Claire, do consider my offer. Winter can be difficult for the unprepared." He mounted that expensive mare, looked down at Cole. "Drifters don't usually stay long in Cedar Ridge. Good thing I'm not usual." After Aldrich's dust settled, Emma crept closer. She pulled her hand from behind her back, Daniel's cavalry compass, brass green with age. "Papa gave me this. Said if I ever got lost, it would point me home." She held it out to Cole, small fingers careful with it. "Does it still work if Papa's gone?" Cole knelt in the dirt, looked at that compass in her small palm. The needle swung, found north, held true. Compass doesn't care who's holding it. North is north. "Papa said you taught him to use it during the war." "Other way around. Your papa taught me lots of things, more than he could ever explain to an 8-year-old. Emma watched him work, then said quiet, "Mr. Aldrich scares Mama. She pretends he doesn't, but she locks the door twice after he leaves." A wagon rattled up before Cole could answer. Sarah Wright held the reins, a basket beside her that could feed a whole camp meeting. "Morning. Claire, I've got more preserves than I can store. Thought the girls might enjoy some." She climbed down, lifted that basket with both hands. "Fresh bread, too. Made too much, as usual." Claire's pride and need fought on her face like cats in a sack. "Sarah, we couldn't." "Nonsense. It'll go to waste otherwise." Sarah's eyes found Cole, took in the fence work, the early hour, the tools in his hands. "Mr. Morgan, that fence is looking better already. Nothing like a man who knows how to work with his hands." She unpacked that basket on the porch, 2 loaves of bread still warm, 3 jars of preserves, a cloth-wrapped ham hock that made Cole's stomach clench with hunger, dried apples, and at the bottom, a small bag of peppermint sticks. Emma's eyes went round as dollars. "Candy. For after supper," Claire said, but her voice was thick with something that wasn't pride anymore. Sarah touched Claire's arm, gentle-like. "The girls should come back to school. Education shouldn't stop for hardship. It's 3 miles each way. They can't walk that in winter." "I could take them." The words came out of Cole's mouth before he thought them through. "Mornings anyway, until the fence work's done." Claire looked between him and Sarah. Some kind of woman understanding passed between them. This was Charity dressed up as casual help, and they all knew it. "Just until the fence is done," Claire repeated. That evening, Claire set 4 plates again, but this time filled them all. Beans and cornbread, ham hock cut thin to stretch it, the last of their bacon fried crisp, coffee for the adults, water sweetened with a drop of molasses for the girls. Rose hadn't spoken at supper since Daniel died. She ate quiet, eyes down on her plate. But when Cole set his coffee mug on the table, she stood up sudden, walked to the shelf where she kept her treasures. The rag doll she pulled down wore a dress made from scraps of Daniel's old shirt. Cole recognized the blue check pattern. Rose set that doll careful next to Cole's mug, adjusted it twice so it sat just right. Then she sat back down, still silent, but watching Cole with eyes that waited for something. Cole looked at the doll, at Rose, at Claire, who'd stopped breathing. He picked up his knife, cut a small piece of cornbread, set it on the table in front of the doll like it was a guest deserving consideration. Then he touched his hat brim to the doll, same as he would to a lady on the street. Rose smiled. Quick as heat lightning, but real. Emma leaned forward. "Rose, never let Papa touch that doll." The words hung there like smoke. Cole's hand froze, reaching for his coffee. Claire's knuckles went white around her fork. Because they all heard what Emma didn't say, Rose thought Cole was safe the way Daniel had been safe, which meant he'd have to stay long enough not to break another promise to a child who'd already lost too much. Outside, hoofbeats approached fast. Too fast for a social call. Sheriff Bert's voice cut through the window. "Claire, Cole, we got trouble. The Haversham wagon never made it to town. There's blood on the road." Cole grabbed his gun belt from the peg, fingers working the buckle by feel. The leather was stiff from not being worn, and it took 2 tries to get it fastened right. "Where?" His voice came out rough. "Mile marker 3, near Sawyer's Bend." Sheriff Burt's horse was blowing hard, foam on its chest. "Found their wagon tipped over, blood on the seat, no sign of Bill or Martha. The baby." Claire's hand went to her throat, fingers pressing white against skin. "Gone too." Cole was already moving toward his horse. The colt sat wrong on his hip, heavier than he remembered. "I'm coming with you." Claire reached for her shawl. "No." Cole swung up into the saddle. "Girls need their mother here. Those are my neighbors. And if something happens to you, what happens to Emma and Rose?" The words came out harder than he meant. Claire stepped back like he'd pushed her. They found the wagon by moonlight. On its side, but not broken, like someone had pushed it over, deliberate, not crashed. Blood on the wooden seat, still wet, but not much, maybe half a cup's worth. Cole touched it with 2 fingers, still tacky, not quite dry. 2 hours old, maybe 3, he told the sheriff. "How can you tell?" "Some things you didn't explain. Some things you just knew from too many years looking at blood that shouldn't be there." Cole walked a circle around the wagon, reading the ground. Bootprints everywhere, the Haversham's boots he recognized from church. Bill's left foot turning out from that old plow injury. 3 other sets, clean-soled, sharp edges, town boots, not farm boots. "They walked away," Sheriff Burt said, relief flooding his voice. "They were made to walk." Cole pointed at the drag marks. "See, Bill fought them at first. They shoved him, hard." The tracks led toward the old mine road. Cole followed them, the sheriff behind with a lantern. 1/4 mile up. They found the Havershams huddled in Johansson's abandoned cabin. Bill's head bloody, but not bad. Martha clutching their baby tight enough to make it squall. "Thank the Lord," Martha sobbed when she saw them. "We thought nobody would come." "Who did this?" Sheriff Burt asked. Bill's face went tight as a drumhead. "They wore flour sacks over their faces. Told us to get and stay get. Said the road weren't safe for certain kinds of folks." "What kind of folks?" Bill's eyes flicked to Cole, then away. "The kind that associates with drifters and their women." The ride back to town was quiet. They got the Havershams to Doc Larson's place, saw them safe inside, but Cole couldn't shake what he'd seen in those boot prints. One set had a nail missing in the left heel, left a mark like a question without an answer. 3 days later, sun bright enough to hurt your eyes. Cole stood in Claire's barn, teaching Emma and Rose the right way to approach Bessie. The milk cow stood patient, tail swishing at flies that weren't there yet too early in the season. Never straight on. Cole kept his voice low as prayer. "Come from the side. Let her see you coming slow." Emma copied his movement, sliding sideways like she was walking on ice. The cow's ear twitched, tracking her. "Now hum. Don't matter what, just keep it low and steady." Emma hummed something that might have been Amazing Grace if you squinted your ears. Bessie's head turned, brown eyes curious but not scared. "See, she's listening, knows you're not hunting her." Cole guided Emma's hand to Bessie's neck. "Feel her breathing steady means she trusts you." Rose watched from the hay bales, that rag doll in her lap, eyes tracking every move Cole made. "Papa used to sing to the horses," Emma said. "Made up special names only they knew. Your papa understood animals. They knew he meant no harm." "Do you mean harm?" Emma's question came sharp as a stick. "Emma," Claire stood in the barn door with a basket of eggs, cheeks pink from the morning cold. "It's all right," Cole said. He looked Emma straight in the eye. "Sometimes, when I have to." "Have you killed people?" The barn went quiet except for Bessie's breathing and a dove cooing somewhere in the rafters. "Yes, during the war, after too, when I wore a badge." "Did they deserve it?" "I thought so at the time." Emma chewed on that like tough meat. "Papa said killing changes a man, makes him different inside. Your papa was right." "Is that why you don't smile, because you're different inside?" Claire started to step forward, but Cole held up a hand. He pulled a blade of prairie grass from his pocket, held it between his thumbs just so. "Watch." He blew across it. The sound that came out was sharp and clear, almost like a meadowlark's call. Emma's eyes went wide as biscuits. How'd you do that? Hold it tight between your thumbs. Make a little gap right here. Blow straight across, not into it. He handed her a blade of grass. Try. Emma tried 6 times before a weak whistle came out. Rose crept closer, bare feet silent on the barn floor. Cole handed her a blade too, careful not to touch her fingers. Rose got it on the 3rd try, clear and strong enough to make Bessie moo back. Emma laughed. Really laughed. The kind that came from her belly. And Cole, one corner of his mouth lifted. Not quite a smile, but closer than he'd come in 2 years. That evening, Sarah Wright stopped by on her way home from school. She stood with Claire on the porch, both women watching Cole show the girls which stars made the Big Dipper. He's good with them, Sarah said. They haven't had... Claire stopped, swallowed. Daniel used to do this, show them the stars. It's all right to say his name, Claire. He's not more gone because you speak it. Mr. Aldrich says people are talking. About Cole staying here, about how it looks. Sarah's laugh was sharp as winter wind. Mr. Aldrich can't stand that someone's here to protect you from his help. I heard what happened to the Havershams. Sheriff Burt says it was drifters passing through. Sheriff Burt says what keeps the peace. Sarah watched Cole point out Polaris to the girls, their heads tilted back, necks white in the moonlight. Hank told me something interesting. Says Cole hasn't touched his gun except that one night. Wears it like it burns him. Claire pulled her shawl tighter. He's leaving once the fence is done. He made that clear. Did he? Sarah stood to go. Because I saw him at Murphy's store yesterday, trading that silver pocket watch of his. For what? Winter boots. 2 pairs, girl-sized. Claire's breath caught in her throat. The harvest dance is in 2 weeks, Sarah said. You should come. I'm in mourning. Daniel's been gone 4 months. He wouldn't want you turning to stone. Sarah touched Claire's arm. That man is teaching your girls to laugh again. Maybe let him teach you too. After Sarah's wagon rattled away, Claire found Cole in the barn, mending harness leather by lantern light. His hands moved steady, threading the leather through buckles worn smooth as glass. I can pay you for the boots. His hands didn't stop moving. No need. That watch was your father's. Daniel told me once how you boys fought over who'd inherit it. It was... The girls aren't your responsibility. Now he looked up. The lantern light caught his eyes, turned them from green to gold, like leaves changing. Daniel asked me to see you through winter. Winter's long out here. I know. Claire stepped into the circle of lantern light. The warmth hit her face like a blessing. Daniel used to do the accounts in the evening. I helped sometimes. Bet you were good at it. Better than good. My father owned a hardware store in Kansas City. I kept his books from the time I was 12. Cole set down the harness. You understand numbers. I understand when they're lying. She pulled a ledger from her basket. These numbers are lying. Cole took the book, held it close to the lantern. Aldrich's handwriting was neat as a spinster's. Every number in its column. But the totals at the bottom, those were different ink. Darker, newer. He's charging you twice what you borrowed. I know, but proving it, Claire shrugged. His word against mine, a banker against a widow. Show me. Cole pushed the ledger back to her. Show me how the numbers lie. They worked until the lantern oil ran low. Claire explained interest rates, compound calculations. The way a decimal point moved could change everything. Cole listened, asked questions, made her explain again when something didn't sit right. Here, Claire pointed at an entry from last month. He added a fee that doesn't exist in the original loan terms. How much extra is he taking? Over the life of the loan, $300, maybe more. Cole whistled low. That's theft. That's banking, according to Mr. Aldrich. Rose appeared in the barn doorway, rubbing her eyes, that doll dragging from one hand. She walked straight to Cole, climbed into his lap without asking permission, curled against his chest. Within seconds, she was asleep again, breathing deep and trusting. Cole's hands hovered, not sure where to put them. Finally settled one on her back, light as dust. Claire watched, something soft and broken in her face. She hasn't done that with anyone but Daniel. I should put her to bed. Wait. Claire reached into the ledger, pulled out a folded paper. I found this yesterday, hidden in Daniel's Bible. Cole took it with his free hand, read Daniel's shaky writing. Cole, if you're reading this, I'm gone and you're with my family. Good. The claim is rich, richer than I told anyone. But there's another claimant Samuel Briggs says he filed first. Papers are with a lawyer in Denver. Get there before Briggs or we lose everything. Take care of them. Brother, they're yours now if you'll have them. Daniel. Cole read it twice. When would Briggs have filed? I don't know, but yesterday, when everyone was watching you fix the Haversham's roof. Claire's voice caught. A man came through town asking about mining claims. Sheriff Burt mentioned it after. Cole looked down at Rose, sleeping peaceful in his arms, at Claire, holding herself together with coffee and courage, at the ledger full of lies. How fast can Briggs get to Denver? 3 days if he rides hard. And from here? Same. If the weather holds. Cole stood careful. Rose's weight nothing in his arms. Then I better leave tonight. You can't. The girls. Claire stopped. They'll think you abandoned them, like Daniel did. Daniel didn't abandon anyone. He died trying to get home. Try explaining that to an 8-year-old. Claire's voice went hard. You leave now, after Rose just... She gestured at the sleeping child. It'll break what's left of them. Cole looked down at Rose's face, peaceful in sleep, felt the weight of her trust heavier than any gun he'd ever carried. Outside, a horse approached fast, too fast for this time of night. Cole's free hand dropped to his gun, then stopped. He knew that bay mare. He knew those expensive boots hitting the ground. Thomas Aldrich's voice carried through the barn wall. Mrs. Morgan, we need to discuss your loan, tonight. Cole handed Rose to Claire, gentle as passing eggs. The child stirred but didn't wake, just burrowed into her mother's shoulder. Stay in the barn, he said low. This is my home. And he's got no right to be here after dark. Cole stepped past her, out into the yard where Aldrich stood next to that expensive mare, holding a lantern high. Mr. Aldrich, Cole kept his hands loose, visible. Bit late for business. My business isn't with you. Aldrich's eyes were glassy in the lantern light. Whiskey on him. Cole could smell it from 10 feet away. Claire, come out here. We need to settle accounts. Mrs. Morgan is putting her children to bed. Mrs. Morgan owes me money. Aldrich pulled papers from his coat, waved them like a flag. 3 months behind. I've been patient, but patience has limits. Claire appeared in the barn doorway, Rose still in her arms. The payment isn't due until spring. That was the agreement. Agreements change when circumstances change. Aldrich stepped toward the barn. Cole shifted, put himself between them. Not threatening, just there, like a fence post that happened to be in the way. What circumstances? Claire's voice stayed level, but Cole saw her arms tighten around Rose. Storm coming. Big one. You can smell it. Cole looked up, stars still visible, but something felt wrong in the air. Pressure dropping. The kind that made old wounds ache. His shoulder where he'd taken that bullet in '78 was throbbing like a bad tooth. No storm on the horizon, Cole said. Not yet. But look west. They looked against the stars, a wall of nothing. Black eating black, swallowing the horizon like spilled ink. Temperature's been dropping all day, Aldrich continued. My barometer's falling fast. Early blizzard. Probably hit tomorrow night. Maybe sooner. He smiled, teeth white in the lantern light. How you planning to survive that? Claire. No money for supplies. Barely enough wood for regular winter, let alone an early storm. We'll manage, Claire said. With what pride? Aldrich laughed. Ugly sound like a crow choking. I'm offering you a choice. Sign the homestead over to me tonight, and I'll give you enough money to get to Denver. You and the girls can stay in a hotel. Wait out the storm in comfort. Or stay here and freeze. Cole studied the western sky again. The nothing was spreading, eating stars one by one. Old Pete's words from yesterday came back. His knees had been aching something fierce. Said weather was changing. "How long have you known about this storm?" Cole asked. Aldrich's smile flickered. "What difference does it make?" "Makes a difference if you've been preparing while letting other folks go without warning." "I'm not responsible for—" "Mr. Aldrich." Emma stood in the barn door, chin up, fists clenched. "My papa said a man who knows trouble's coming and doesn't warn his neighbors is worse than a thief. He's a murderer." Aldrich's face went dark. "Your papa's dead, little girl. His opinions don't matter anymore." The silence that followed was sharp enough to cut. Claire made a sound like she'd been punched. Emma's face crumpled, then went hard in a way no 8-year-olds should. "Get off my land," Claire said, voice quiet but carrying clear. "This won't be your land much longer." "Tonight it is. Get off it." Aldrich looked between them all, Claire holding Rose. Emma with tears she wouldn't let fall. Cole standing quiet but ready. He grabbed his mare's reins, swung up clumsy from the whiskey. "When that storm hits, remember I offered you a way out." He yanked the horse around too hard, made her dance. "Don't come begging for help when your children are freezing." After he rode off, Cole kept watching that western nothing. It was moving, slow but certain, like floodwater rising. "How bad?" Claire asked. "Bad. We need to warn folks. Now." They hitched the wagon fast, Cole's hands working leather while Claire bundled the girls in everything warm they had. The ride to town took 20 minutes that felt like hours. Wind was picking up, pushing against them, and the temperature had dropped 10 degrees since sunset. Main Street was dark except for the saloon. Cole stopped at Murphy's store first, pounded on the door until Murphy appeared in his nightshirt, shotgun in hand. "Cole, what in blazes? Storm coming." "Big one, probably hit tomorrow, maybe sooner." Murphy looked west, saw that wall of nothing. His face went white. "Lord Almighty, that's like 68. Ring the church bell. 3 sets of 3. Get everyone to the church." The bell's bronze voice cut through the night. 3 rings. Pause. 3 rings. Pause. 3 rings. The emergency pattern that meant drop everything and come now. People came stumbling out of houses. Some dressed, some in nightclothes with coats thrown over. They filled the church, children crying, adults muttering, everyone looking scared. Sheriff Burt stood at the front. "We got a situation. Storm coming. Probably a blizzard." Cole spotted it. "How bad?" someone called out. Cole stood up. "Bad as 68, maybe worse. Temperature's dropping fast. Wind's picking up. We got maybe 18 hours, probably less." The crowd stirred like spooked cattle. Half of them remembered 68, the frozen cattle, the families that starved. The children found spring wearing the same clothes they died in. "We need to prepare," Sheriff Burt said. "Secure animals, bank foundations, board up windows, share supplies." "Share what supplies?" That was Ben Cooper, a farmer with 6 children. "I got barely enough for my own family." "Then we share what we got," Claire said, standing up. "Nobody survives alone. We survive together, or not at all." Thomas Aldrich stood up from his pew. "That's very noble." "Claire, but nobility doesn't put food on tables or wooden stoves. I run a business, not a charity." "You knew the storm was coming," Cole said. Every head turned to look at him. "Your barometer's been dropping for days. You prepared, you stocked up, but you didn't warn anyone." "I'm not the town crier." "No, you're the banker." "The man folks trust with their money, with their futures." Sarah Wright stood up, voice carrying strong. "And you kept quiet so you could use this crisis to your advantage." The church got quiet as death. Aldrich's face went red, then purple. "I don't have to listen to." "Yes, you do." Sarah walked to the front, stood by the pulpit like she was teaching school. "Because right now, we need to decide what kind of town we are. The kind that lets neighbors freeze while one man profits, or the kind that stands together." She looked out at the congregation, met eyes one by one. "Claire Morgan has offered to share what little she has. She's opening her root cellar to anyone who needs shelter. That's 3 miles out in the wrong direction, and she's still offering. What are the rest of us offering? Mary Cooper stood first. I got extra blankets. Not many, but some. Doc Larson stood. Medical supplies, whoever needs them. Old Pete shuffled to his feet. Got a storm cellar that'll hold 3 families, maybe 4 if we squeeze. One by one, people stood, offering what they had: food, shelter, firewood, tools, everyone except Aldrich, who sat alone in his pew like a stone in a river. "This is ridiculous," he finally said. "You're panicking over weather. I'm not extending credit for hysteria. Then people will die," Claire said flat. "That's not my responsibility." "No," Cole said. "It's your opportunity." The truth of it hung in the air like smoke. Everyone could see it now. Aldrich had been waiting for something like this. A crisis that would break the town's back. Let him sweep up the pieces. "Anyone who needs credit, come to me," Claire said, loud enough for everyone to hear. "I'll co-sign your notes." Aldrich laughed, sharp and mean. "With what collateral? You're already mortgaged past your worth." Claire pulled out a leather folder from her coat. Daniel's mining claim, filed in a 79 up on Sawyer's Creek. The church went silent. Mining claims were like lottery tickets, might be worth nothing. Might be worth everything. "You don't even know if there's gold there," Aldrich said, but his voice had gone hungry. "Neither do you. But I'll stake it against credit for anyone who needs supplies." "Claire, no," Sheriff Burt said. "That claim might be all you got left." "It's nothing if we're all dead." She held the papers high. "Who needs help?" 7 families stepped forward. The Coopers, the Johansons, the Millers, 3 other families with children, and surprisingly, the Haversham's Bill's head still bandaged from the attack. Claire signed her name 7 times, staking everything Daniel had left on her neighbor's survival. Cole organized work crews while Claire handled the paperwork. Men to secure livestock and board windows. Women to prepare food and gather medical supplies. Children to fill containers with water before pipes froze. At Murphy's store, Cole laid his saddle on the counter. The leather was worn smooth where his legs had gripped it, the silver conchos tarnished but solid. "What'll you give me for it?" Murphy's eyes went wide. "Cole, a man needs his saddle. Man needs supplies more. The Johansson family's got nothing put by. $10 credit. 20? 15? Done." Cole started loading supplies: flour, beans, salt pork, kerosene, matches, enough for 3 families if they were careful. Emma appeared at his elbow, rose behind her. "Why'd you sell your saddle?" Emma asked. "Can't eat leather, little one." "But you need it to leave." Cole looked down at her, saw Daniel's eyes looking back, full of questions that needed answers. "Who says I'm leaving?" Outside, the wind was picking up stronger. The nothing in the west had eaten half the sky, and the first ice crystals were starting to fall, sharp as needles against exposed skin. Old Pete grabbed Cole's arm, fingers like claws. "It's coming faster than we thought. Look at them clouds." Cole looked. The clouds weren't just dark, they were green-black, with a rotation starting high up, like the sky was stirring itself into something terrible. The wall hit Cedar Ridge like a fist made of ice and wind. Cole had been stringing rope from the church to Murphy's store when the temperature dropped 20 degrees in the space of a breath. The hemp rope in his hands went stiff, ice crystals forming on the fibers as he watched. Then the white came sideways, horizontal, like God had turned the world on its edge. He couldn't see the church anymore, couldn't see Murphy's store, couldn't see his own hand stretched out in front of him until he pulled it back to 6 inches from his face. The rope jerked taut. Someone on the other end, Sheriff Burt, may be pulling to test the line. Cole pulled back twice, signaled that he was still there, still standing. Wind hit him from the left, then the right, then straight down from above, like the sky was falling. He dropped to his knees, grabbed the guide rope with both hands. Ice was already forming on his eyelashes, sealing them shut when he blinked. He forced them open, looked for the next building. Nothing. White nothing in every direction. He crawled along the rope, counting hand over hand. 30 pulls should get him to Murphy's wall. 25. 26. His knee hit something hard, the store's foundation. He felt along it until he found the corner post, tied the rope tight with fingers that wouldn't bend right anymore. 3 families were sheltered in Murphy's back room. He could hear them through the wall, children crying, women praying, men's voices trying to sound calm, but he had to get back to Claire's. They had 5 families in her barn, another 3 in the root cellar. The wind screamed like something dying. Cole followed his own rope back, then the next rope to the schoolhouse where Sarah had gathered the children whose parents were trapped elsewhere. Her face appeared in the window for a second when he pounded on the door, white as paper. Eyes huge, then vanished back into the dark. By the time he made it back to Claire's homestead, he couldn't feel his face. Ice had formed a mask from his hat brim to his collar, and every breath felt like swallowing broken glass. The kitchen was full of bodies. 3 families pressed against the walls. Children packed together under blankets like puppies. Claire stood at the stove, melting snow for water, her hands raw from the cold pot handles. "The barn!" Cole had to shout over the wind, screaming through the walls. "Holding! The Havershams, Coopers, and Johanssons made it there before—" She stopped, looking around. "Where's Emma?" Rose stood by the stairs, pointing up. But when Claire went to check, Emma's bed was empty. The window was open an inch, snow piling on the floor beneath it. "No." Claire's voice broke. "No, no, no." Cole was already moving. He grabbed the coil of rope from the kitchen, tied one end around his waist. "Hold this. You can't see anything out there. She went for the barn, that cat of hers. Snowball's been missing since—" Claire's face went white. She wouldn't. But they both knew she would. Emma, with her stubborn chin and her father's courage and her 8-year-old heart that couldn't let a cat freeze. Cole went out the door. The wind hit him so hard he nearly went down. He couldn't breathe, the air was moving too fast. Horizontal ice that burned worse than fire. He dropped to his knees, started crawling toward where the barn should be. 20 feet from the house, the world disappeared entirely. Up became down, left became right. The only real thing was the rope pulling at his waist and the cold so complete it felt like being skinned alive. His hand hit something. Board fence. He'd gone off course. Too far left. He corrected. Kept crawling. The rope was playing out behind him, Claire feeding it through her hands back in the kitchen. "Emma!" The wind took his voice, shredded it, threw it away. "Emma!" A sound. Maybe. Or maybe just the barn door banging. He crawled toward it, fingers so numb he couldn't feel the ground anymore. The barn wall suddenly there. Solid. Real. He felt along it. Found the door. Pulled. Emma was 5 feet inside, on her knees, sobbing. The white cat was under the workbench, eyes huge with terror, and Emma couldn't reach it. Her arms too short. Cole grabbed the girl, pulled her against him. She fought for a second, then recognized him. Threw her arms around his neck. "Snowball won't come," she screamed in his ear. "She's scared. Leave her. No, she'll die." The cat was pressed against the back wall, shaking. Cole reached for it, got claws across his hand deep enough to hit bone. He grabbed anyway, stuffed the terrified animal inside his coat, grabbed Emma with his other arm. "Hold on to me. Don't let go." Emma locked her arms around his neck, legs around his waist. Cole started back, following the rope. But the wind had shifted, was hitting from a different angle now. The rope led off to the right, but that felt wrong. The house should be straight ahead. Or was it left? He pulled on the rope. It pulled back Claire, anchoring him. He followed it, but every step felt like walking off a cliff. The ground wasn't where it should be. The air was solid white, thick as cotton, cold as death. His knee hit something. Porch step. They'd made it. But when he tried to stand, his legs wouldn't work. He fell forward, Emma still clinging to him, the cat yowling inside his coat. The door opened. Hands grabbed him, pulled him inside. Claire's hands, bloody from the rope. Ice melted pink on her palms. She was saying something, but he couldn't hear over the roaring in his ears. Heat hit him like a hammer. The kitchen stove, blazing with everything they could burn. It hurt worse than the cold, like his blood was boiling under his skin. He tried to push away from it, but his muscles weren't listening to his brain anymore. "Get his coat off," someone said. Sarah's voice. When had she gotten here? They peeled frozen clothes off him in layers. The cat escaped. Streak of white disappearing under the stove. Emma was sobbing against Claire's shoulder. Her own hands blue-white with cold. His feet, Sarah said, sharp. Look at his feet! Cole looked down. His boots were frozen solid to his feet. Ice and leather and skin all one thing. They cut the boots off with a knife, and his feet underneath were white as candle wax. Hot water, someone said. No, Sarah corrected. Cool first, then warm. Too fast and we'll lose the tissue. They put his feet in a bucket of snowmelt water. The pain that shot up his legs made him bite through his lower lip. Blood in his mouth. Metal taste like sucking on a penny. Mr. Cole, Rose's voice, small and scared. He tried to focus on her face, but it kept sliding sideways. The room was spinning. Or maybe he was. Hard to tell. Mr. Cole, you saved Emma. Yeah, little one. His voice came out wrong. Thick like his tongue was too big. I did. Rose walked over, climbed into his lap where he sat by the stove, put her arms around his neck gentle as butterfly wings. Don't die like Papa. Claire made a sound half sob, half prayer. Cole tried to tell them he was fine, just cold, just tired, but the words wouldn't come. His body was shaking now, violent shudders that rattled his teeth. Fever, Sarah said, hand on his forehead. Too fast. His body's fighting the shock. They wrapped him in every blanket they had, fed him warm broth that came back up, tried again. The storm screamed outside like it was angry they'd cheated it of its kills. Time went strange. Sometimes it was light outside, white light, storm light. Sometimes dark. The families in the kitchen took turns at the stove, melting snow, making soup from whatever they had. Someone was always touching him, checking his fever, forcing water between his lips, changing the cloths on his head. Claire's voice, reading from the Bible. Emma's voice, reciting her lessons. Rose humming something that might have been a hymn or might have been nothing at all. The fever climbed. Cole's mind went with it, up into the white where Margaret waited with baby James. They were in the kitchen back in Colorado, before the cholera. Margaret was making biscuits, flour on her hands, smiling at something James was doing in his high chair. I'm sorry, Cole told her. Should have boiled the water, should have known the well was bad. Margaret's mouth moved, but no words came out. Just wind sound, storm sound, the sound of the world ending. Fever's at 104 inches, Sarah's voice, urgent. We need to break it or what, Claire's voice, tight with fear. Sarah didn't answer. Didn't need to. They all knew what happened when fever got that high. The brain cooked itself. If you survived, you weren't always the same after. Cole tried to tell them he was still there, still fighting, but his mouth wouldn't work. Everything was white now. White room, white faces, white nothing pressing in from all sides. Then Rose started coughing. Wet. Deep coughs that sounded like she was drowning from the inside. The storm broke like a fever at dawn. Sarah felt at first the wind stopped screaming, just stopped, like someone had slammed a door shut. The kitchen windows, boarded over, showed cracks of gray light instead of white. Nothing. It's over, Ben Cooper said. But nobody moved. After 2 days, the stillness felt wrong, like the world had died outside. Rose's coughing hadn't stopped. Wet, rattling sounds that made Claire's hands shake as she held the child. Sarah mixed willow bark tea, tried to get it down the girl's throat. Most came back up, pink with blood. Cole lay on Claire's bed where they'd moved him when the fever got worse. His lips moved constant, talking to people who weren't there. Sometimes Margaret, sometimes Daniel. Once he grabbed Sheriff Burt's wrist hard enough to leave bruises. Said, "The water's bad. Don't let them drink it." "We need to check the damage," Sheriff Burt said. "See who needs help." 3 men went out first. The door stuck, ice had sealed it. They pushed until wood cracked, and it opened to a world transformed. Snow drifted to the roof on the north side of the house. The chicken coop was gone. Just gone. Like it had never existed. The barn stood, but half the roof had peeled back like opening a can. "Jesus," Bill Haversham whispered. Then, "Quick, Sorry, Lord. They waded through snow to the barn. The animals inside were pressed together, ice on their backs but alive. The Cooper's milk cow had frozen standing up, eyes open, like a statue. In town, the devastation was worse. Murphy's store had no roof at all. The church steeple had snapped off, driven through the blacksmith's wall like a spear. 7 houses were damaged beyond repair, but no people dead. Not yet. Sarah stayed with Rose and Cole while Claire went to town with Sheriff Burt. They needed medical supplies, needed to know if Doc Larson had survived. Cole's fever was climbing again. Sarah stripped the sweat-soaked sheets, saw the old scars across his chest and back. Bullet wounds, knife marks, a burn scar that looked like someone had pressed a hot iron to his ribs. "What happened to you?" she asked the unconscious man. Cole's eyes opened, but they weren't seeing her. Couldn't save them. The cholera took them in 2 days. Margaret begged for water, but the water was what was killing them. Sarah pressed a cool cloth to his forehead. "Shh, rest now." "No rest. Have to dig the graves. Ground's too hard. Have to burn them." His voice broke. "Had to burn my wife and boy because the ground was frozen." Sarah's hand stopped moving. That kind of thing broke a man in ways that didn't heal. Rose coughed again, specks of blood on her lips. Sarah went to her, felt her forehead. Burning hot, worse than coal. "We need Doc Larson," she told Emma, who sat silent in the corner. "Run to town. Find your mama." Emma ran, alone with 2 fever patients. Sarah did what she could. Cool cloths, willow bark tea, prayers that felt too small for what was needed. Cole sat up sudden, eyes wide but not seeing. "Daniel, he's not here," Sarah said, gentle. "Daniel, I can't do this. Can't take care of them. I kill everything I care about. That's not true. Margaret trusted me, said the homestead was too far from town. But I said we'd be fine. The cholera came up the river, and we were too far from help." He grabbed Sarah's arm, fingers ice cold despite the fever. 2 days. That's all it took. 2 days and they were gone. Rose's coughing got worse. Sarah went to her, tried to prop her up to breathe easier. The girl's eyes rolled back, showing white. No, stay with me." Sarah patted Rose's cheeks. "Come on, little one." The door burst open. Claire with Doc Larson, both covered in snow. Doc went straight to Rose, pulled out his medical bag. "How long has she been like this?" "Hour, maybe 2. Doc listened to Rose's chest, pulled her eyelid up, looked at her fingernails. "Pneumonia, both lungs." Claire made a sound like someone had gutted her. "Can you—" "I'll try, but she needs to fight too." Doc pulled out a bottle, measured drops into water. "Get this down her. Every hour." "What about Cole?" Claire asked. Doc looked at the man thrashing in the bed. "Exhaustion fever. His body's fighting itself. Keep him cool. Get water in him. He'll either break it or—" He stopped. Or his brain cooks. Seen it before. Men who push too hard, too long. Body shuts down to save itself, but sometimes shuts down too much. They worked through the day. Claire with Cole, Sarah with Rose, Doc going between them. Other families came and went, sharing what supplies they had, taking turns at the stove. Thomas Aldrich appeared at the door near sunset, coat perfect, boots clean like he'd somehow avoided the storm entirely. "I've come to collect—" Sheriff Burt stood up. "Collect what?" "Payments. Several families took credit before the storm. Payment is due." "You can't be serious," Sarah said. "Half the town is destroyed, which is why I need capital to help rebuild." Aldrich pulled out his ledger. "The Coopers owe $15, the Johansons, $12, the Havershams are right here," Bill Haversham said from his corner, "and we got nothing. Storm took everything." "Then you'll have to forfeit your property." The room went dead quiet, except for Rose's labored breathing and Cole's fevered muttering. "Get out," Claire said, not looking up from where she bathed Cole's face. "I have legal right." "Get out." Aldrich smiled cold. "You can't protect them all, Claire, and your own payment is due. The storm doesn't change contracts." He left, but his words stayed. Poisonous as bad water. Night came. Rose's breathing got shallower. Cole's fever wouldn't break. Claire moved between them, hands raw from wringing cold cloths, voice hoarse from singing the hymns Daniel used to sing. "Please," she whispered to Cole, holding his burning hand. "Please don't leave us. The girls need you. I need." Cole's eyes opened, focused for the first time in hours. "Claire, I'm here. Rose, is she? She's fighting." Cole tried to sit up, fell back. "Have to help her. You have to rest. You can't help anyone like this." "That's what I told Margaret. Rest. I said, save your strength. But the cholera doesn't care how strong you are." Tears ran down his face, mixing with sweat. "I burned them. Claire, had to burn their bodies because the ground was too hard to dig." Claire held his hand tighter. "That wasn't your fault. Everything I touch dies. Daniel, Margaret, James, soon Rose. No, Rose is going to live. You're going to live. We're all going to live because that's what we do. We survive." Cole looked at her, really looked, and for a moment was completely present. "Why did Daniel pick me of all the people he could have asked to help you? Why his broken brother?" Before Claire could answer, Rose stopped coughing, stopped breathing. Doc Larson pushed past them, grabbed the child, turned her on her side, pounded her back. Nothing. Turned her face up, breathed into her lungs. Nothing. "No!" Emma screamed from the corner. "No, not Rose, too!" Doc breathed for Rose again. Again, Claire was praying out loud. The Lord's Prayer, over and over. Sarah held Emma back from rushing to her sister. Cole somehow got to his feet, swaying, fever-bright eyes fixed on the still child. "Let me," he said. "You can't," Doc started. Cole pushed past him, picked up Rose's tiny body, held her against his chest, her head on his shoulder, and started humming. The same low tune he'd used on the horses, on Emma when she was scared, on Rose herself just days ago. "Come back, little one," he whispered into her hair. "Your mama needs you to come back." Rose coughed. Once, weak as a kitten's mew, then again, stronger. Drew a rattling breath. Another. Doc grabbed her, listened to her chest. "She's breathing, weak but breathing." Cole's legs gave out. He hit the floor hard, head cracking against the boards. Claire dropped beside him, pulled his head into her lap. Cole, stay with me." His eyes were open but unfocused. "Did I save her?" "Yes. You saved her. Good. That's one debt paid." His hand found hers. "Tell Daniel I tried. Tell him." His eyes rolled back. His body went rigid, back arching, muscles locked in spasm. "He's seizing." Doc said sharp, "Hold him. Don't let him bite his tongue." They held him while his body fought itself, muscles contracting so hard they could hear his joints pop. It lasted forever. It lasted 30 seconds. Then he went limp, breathing but unconscious. Doc felt his pulse, lifted his eyelids. The fever's breaking, but the seizure... Sometimes they cause damage. Won't know until he wakes up. "If," Sarah said quiet. "If he wakes up." Claire looked down at Cole's still face. At Rose, breathing shallow but steady. At Emma crying silent in the corner. Outside, they could hear voices. The town organizing. Rebuilding already started. But inside this room, everything hung suspended, waiting to see who would live whole, who would live broken, and who wouldn't live at all. Then Cole's lips moved, just barely. But Claire saw it. He was saying something, over and over. She leaned close, put her ear to his mouth. "The claim," he whispered. "Briggs, Denver, 3 days." Cole's eyes opened to sunlight. Real sunlight, not stormlight. It hurt, made his head feel like someone was driving railroad spikes through his temples. The room was empty except for Claire, asleep in the chair beside the bed, her hand still holding his. Her face was gaunt, dark circles under her eyes like bruises. How long had he been out? He tried to sit up. The room tilted, spun, settled. His muscles felt like water, like someone had pulled all the bones out and left just skin. "You're awake." Claire's eyes opened, brown and deep and worried. "How long?" 3 days since the seizure. 3 days. Briggs would be in Denver by now. The claim would be Rose, he asked. Alive. Weak, but alive. Claire squeezed his hand. "You saved her." The claim is safe. Sheriff Burt sent a telegram to Denver soon as the lines were repaired. The lawyer, Mercer, is holding all paperwork until both parties appear. Cole tried to swing his legs out of bed. They didn't cooperate, folded like wet paper. Claire caught him before he hit the floor. You can't travel. Doc says the seizure that there might be damage. What kind of damage? Claire helped him back to bed. Your left hand. It's not working right. Cole looked at his left hand, told it to make a fist. The fingers twitched but wouldn't close. He could feel them, but it was like they belonged to someone else. It'll come back, he said. Maybe. Has to. I need both hands to work. To work here or to leave. Before he could answer, boots on the porch. Heavy boots. Many of them. Sheriff Burt came through the door first, face grim. Cole, Claire, we got a problem. Behind him, Thomas Aldrich entered with a man in a territorial marshal's uniform. Another man followed thin, carrying a leather case that screamed lawyer. Mrs. Morgan, the marshal said, touching his hat. I'm Marshal Harrison from the territorial office. I'm here about multiple accusations of fraud. Against Mr. Aldrich, I hope, Claire said. Against you, ma'am. Mr. Aldrich says you've been falsifying documents, claiming assets that don't exist. Claire's face went white, but her voice stayed steady. What assets? The lawyer opened his case, pulled out papers. A mining claim that Mr. Aldrich says is fraudulent. You used it as collateral for multiple loans, knowing it was worthless. That's a lie. Additionally, the lawyer continued, Mr. Morgan here isn't legally able to represent your interests, as he's not your husband and not a blood relative of your late husband. Cole tried to stand again. This time his legs held, though the room swayed. I'm Daniel's brother. Can you prove that? Cole reached for his coat, hanging on the wall. His left hand wouldn't grip, so he used his right, pulled out an oilcloth packet. Inside, yellowed papers, his birth certificate, Daniel's, both showing same parents, their mother's Bible with the family tree written in her hand. The marshal examined them. These seem legitimate. They're forgeries, Aldrich said quick. This man is a drifter who appeared right when a grieving widow needed help. Convenient, wouldn't you say? What's convenient, Cole said, is you showing up now, when I can barely stand, to press your case. Justice doesn't wait for criminals to feel better. The word criminal hung in the air like smoke from a cheap cigar. Emma appeared in the doorway, Rose leaning on her, both girls in their nightgowns. Mr. Cole isn't a criminal. Children should be seen, Aldrich started. Children should be heard when adults are lying. Emma stepped forward, chin high. Mr. Cole taught us Papa's stars. Only Papa and Uncle Cole knew those stories from when they were boys. The marshal looked interested. What stories? About the warrior constellation, how it's not really a warrior but a farmer protecting his field. Papa said Grandpa made it up to make him and Uncle Cole feel better about not being soldiers. Emma's voice stayed steady. Only family would know that. Aldrich's face flushed. Children's stories prove nothing. But this does. Sarah Wright stood in the doorway, holding a leather satchel. Behind her, half the town crowded the porch. Sorry we're late. Had to dig these out of the snow. She pulled out a stack of letters, handed them to the marshal. Letters from Daniel Morgan to his brother Cole. Dated over 15 years, all talking about family matters. Their mother's death, their father's farm. The marshal read several, passed them to the lawyer. These appear to establish a family relationship. Fine, Aldrich said. He's the brother, but the mining claim is still fraudulent. Is it? Old Pete pushed through the crowd. Sheriff Burt helping him walk, in Pete's gnarled hand, a small leather pouch. Because I helped Daniel Morgan file that claim. Saw the gold myself. He dumped the pouch on the table. 6 nuggets tumbled out. Small but unmistakably real. Gold caught the light, threw it back doubled. The marshal picked up 1 nugget, bit it, examined the tooth mark. This is real. Course it's real, Pete said. Daniel weren't no liar, unlike some people in this room. Aldrich's hand went to his coat pocket. The marshal's hand dropped to his gun. Slowly, Mr. Aldrich. Aldrich pulled out papers, not a weapon. I have documentation showing multiple instances of illegal loans made by Mrs. Morgan. Claire stood, walked to her shelf, pulled down her ledger. And I have documentation showing you've been charging illegal interest rates. She opened the ledger, showed the marshal. Kansas territorial law says maximum 12% for agricultural loans. Mr. Aldrich has been charging 15%. The marshal studied the ledger. Mr. Aldrich, that ledger could be altered. Hard to alter this. Doc Larson came forward with another ledger. Aldrich's own bank records. I'm on the board of directors. Had a look after the storm when the bank building was damaged. He opened it, showed pages of entries. Every loan in here is at 15% or higher. The marshal's face darkened. Mr. Aldrich, illegal interest rates are a federal crime. You can't prove, and there's this. Bill Haversham stepped forward, head still bandaged. The night we were attacked, told to stay away from the Morgans, one of the attackers had a boot with a missing nail in the left heel. He pulled something from his pocket. A broken nail. Bent. Found this at the scene. Sheriff Burt took Aldrich's arm. Mind if we look at your boots, Thomas? This is ridiculous. The sheriff was already looking. The left boot, missing a nail in the heel. The hole matched the bent nail, perfect. You attacked the Havershams. Marshal Harrison's voice went cold. I didn't, I hired. Aldrich stopped, realizing what he'd admitted. You hired men to attack a family. That's conspiracy to commit assault. The marshal nodded to Sheriff Burt. Arrest him. You can't. Aldrich pulled away. I own half this town. You own nothing, Judge Harper said from the doorway. Everyone turned. The judge had been traveling, just returned, still in his travel clothes. I've been reviewing the documents Mrs. Morgan sent me. Every loan you made using illegal rates is void under territorial law. The room erupted. People talking, shouting, crying. Claire sank into a chair like her strings had been cut. Aldrich looked around wild, seeking support, found none. This isn't over. I have friends in Denver, important friends. Your friend Samuel Briggs, Cole asked, quiet. Aldrich went still. Funny thing about Briggs, he only shows up where you've been doing business, almost like someone tells him where to find disputed claims. Marshal Harrison looked very interested now. You know Samuel Briggs, Mr. Aldrich. I've never... Telegraph operator says different. Sheriff Burt pulled out a yellow paper. Telegram from Aldrich to Briggs, sent day before the storm, says Morgan claim vulnerable. Move now. The marshal read the telegram. Mr. Aldrich, you're under arrest for fraud, conspiracy, assault, and federal mail theft. Sheriff Burt pulled out iron shackles. They closed on Aldrich's wrists with a sound like breaking bones. Wait, Aldrich said, desperate now. The mortgage. Claire's mortgage is still valid. She owes 3 months. Paid in full. Cole pulled out a receipt. This morning, while you were gathering your mob, used the gold from Daniel's claim. You couldn't have. You've been unconscious. I woke up early. Sheriff Burt took me to the bank. Your own clerk processed the payment. Cole smiled. First real smile anyone had seen from him. Funny thing about seizures. Sometimes they clear your head right up. Aldrich lunged at Cole, shackles clanking. The marshal caught him, pulled him back. Get him out of here, Harrison ordered. As they dragged Aldrich away, he screamed back, You haven't won. That claim will never pay out. The vein is played out. Daniel found all there was. The room went quiet. Everyone looked at Cole. Cole reached into his pocket with his good hand, pulled out another pouch, larger than Pete's. He poured it on the table. Gold. Not nuggets, a steady stream of gold dust that built into a small mountain on the wood. Found this yesterday when Sheriff took me to check the claim. Daniel only dug 3 feet down. The real vein starts at 6 feet. He looked at Claire. There's enough gold in that hill to rebuild this whole town twice over. Claire made a sound half laugh, half sob. Emma and Rose ran to her, all three holding each other. So you'll be leaving now? Emma asked Cole, voice small. Now that we're safe, Cole looked at his left hand. Still not working right. At Rose, pale but breathing. At Claire, tears running down her face. At the townfolk who'd stood witness for him. Can't leave yet, he said. Fence still needs fixing. Fence is fixed, Emma said. You finished it before the storm. Well then, guess I need a new excuse. He walked to Claire, unsteady but determined, knelt on one knee, which was harder than it should have been. Your girls asked if I'd be their papa, not instead of Daniel. But also, he pulled out Daniel's wedding ring, the one Claire had kept. Maybe it's time I stopped being also and started being always. Claire's hand covered her mouth. The room held its breath. You're proposing now you can barely stand. If I wait till I'm steady, might lose my nerve. He held up the ring. Claire Morgan, will you let me stay? Before Claire could answer, Rose spoke, clear and strong for the first time since the fever. Say yes, Mama. Papa Daniel would want us happy. Claire looked at her daughters, at the townfolk crammed in her kitchen, at Cole swaying on one knee but still holding that ring steady. You sure you know what you're getting? A widow with 2 girls, a farm that barely functions, and a town full of people who'll expect you to help with every crisis. Sounds like home, Cole said. Claire pulled him to his feet, which took both her hands and Sarah's help. Then yes, the kitchen erupted in cheers. Someone ran to ring the church bell or what was left of it. The sound was cracked but carried clear. Judge Harper pushed forward. I can marry you now if you want. Make it official. Now, Claire asked. Why wait? You've already been through worse and better. Sickness and health. Harper smiled. Might as well make it legal. They stood there in the kitchen, surrounded by neighbors, children underfoot, the smell of coffee and wet wool and hope. Harper spoke the words fast, like he was afraid someone would interrupt. Do you? Cole Morgan, take this woman. Yes. I hadn't finished. Yes to all of it. Claire Morgan, do you? Yes. Harper laughed. Then, by the power vested in me by the territory of Kansas, I pronounce you man and wife. Cole kissed Claire with his right hand on her cheek, his left hanging useless at his side. She grabbed that left hand, pressed it between both of hers, like she could push life back into it through will alone. I now have a husband who can't write his name. She whispered against his mouth. You'll have to teach me. Like you taught me the ledgers. Emma and Rose pushed between them, arms around both. Does this mean we call you Papa now? Cole's throat closed. He nodded, not trusting his voice. Papa Cole, Rose said, testing it. Papa? Outside, someone shouted. Riders coming, lots of them? Sheriff Burt went to the window. His face went grim. It's Samuel Briggs, with about 20 men. Samuel Briggs sat his horse like a man who'd never worked a day with his hands. Soft in the middle. Clean-shaven, wearing a suit that cost more than most folks saw in a year. His men spread out behind him, hired guns by the look of them. Careful eyes and hands near their weapons. Mrs. Morgan, Briggs called from the yard. Or should I say, the former Mrs. Morgan. I understand you just remarried. Cole stepped onto the porch, right hand steady, left hanging useless. The badge Marshal Harrison had just pinned on him caught the light temporary deputy, legal authority to act. Mr. Briggs, you're trespassing. I'm claiming what's mine. I filed on that Sawyer Creek plot before Daniel Morgan. Your paperwork's forged. The ink was wrong. Date added later. Briggs smiled cold. Prove it. Judge Harper came out, holding the documents they'd been examining. Already did. Had the territorial office checked their records? No Briggs filing exists. Records can be lost, or never filed in the first place. Harper held up a telegram. Denver office confirms they have no record of you filing any claim on Sawyer Creek. Ever. Briggs's face went dark. Aldrich promised. Aldrich is in custody, Marshal Harrison said, stepping out beside Cole. Federal charges, mail theft, fraud, conspiracy. The hired guns behind Briggs shifted, restless. They'd been promised easy money, not federal marshals. I want to see this supposed gold, Briggs said. If the claim's so rich, where's the proof? Old Pete hobbled forward, that same pouch of nuggets in his hand. Right here. That's nothing. A few nuggets Daniel probably bought somewhere else. There's more, Cole said. Then show me. Cole looked at Claire. She nodded. The claim's 3 miles up Sawyer Creek. We can go now. Cole, you can barely ride, Sheriff Burt said low. I can sit a horse. They saddled up Cole, Briggs, Marshal Harrison, Judge Harper, Sheriff Burt. Half the town wanted to follow, but Harper ordered them to stay. This was legal business now. The ride took forever. Cole's left hand couldn't grip the reins right, so he wrapped them around his wrist. Each bounce in the saddle sent lightning through his skull where the seizure had scrambled things. Sawyer Creek ran fast with snowmelt, brown and angry. They followed it upstream, past stands of cottonwood, past the beaver dam, to where Daniel had staked his markers. 4 wooden posts driven into the ground. D. Morgan, 1,879 inches carved deep. Anyone can carve posts, Briggs said. Cole dismounted, careful, walked to a spot near the creek. The ground was already disturbed. He'd been here yesterday with Sheriff Burt. A hole 6 feet deep, shored up with planks. Look for yourself. Briggs climbed down into the hole. Marshal Harrison followed. Then Judge Harper. At 6 feet, the dirt changed color darker, with veins of quartz running through it. And in the quartz, catching the light like fire, threads of gold. Harper pulled out a knife, scraped at the vein. Gold dust fell into his palm, real as sunrise. How far does it go? Harrison asked. Don't know, Cole said. Didn't have strength to dig further, but the vein gets wider as it goes down. Briggs climbed out of the hole, face red with effort and rage. This proves nothing. I still have a legal claim. No, Harper said. You don't. You have forged papers in a conspiracy with a jailed banker. He looked at Marshal Harrison. I'm ruling in favor of Mrs. Morgan, excuse me. Mrs. Cole Morgan. The claim is legally hers. You can't. I can and I have. Harper climbed back on his horse. Mr. Briggs, you have 1 hour to leave Cedar Ridge. If you're still here after that, Marshal Harrison will arrest you for fraud. The hired guns were already backing away, calculating whether their pay was worth federal trouble. One by one, they turned their horses, headed back toward town and away. Briggs stood alone, fists clenched. This isn't over. Yeah, Cole said quiet. It is. He pulled his gun with his right hand. Slow, deliberate. Briggs went white, stepped back. Cole reversed the gun, handed it butt first to Marshal Harrison. Don't need this anymore. Harrison took the gun, confused. You're a deputy. Was for about 20 minutes. Long enough to make this legal. Cole unpinned the badge, handed it over to. I'm done with guns. Marshal, done with badges. Got a farm to run, girls to raise. Briggs laughed. Ugly sound. You think you can just walk away? Men like us don't get to walk away. I'm not like you. Cole turned his back on Briggs. Deliberate insult. Never was. The ride back to town was quiet except for creek water running and horses breathing. Briggs followed at a distance, his fancy suit muddy now, dignity gone. At the edge of town, his remaining men were already mounted, ready to leave. Briggs climbed on his horse, looked back once at Cole. You'll regret this. That gold will bring nothing but trouble. Maybe, but it'll be our trouble to handle. After Briggs disappeared down the road, the town exploded in celebration. The gold meant rebuilding, meant security, meant Cedar Ridge would survive. But Cole walked past all of it, straight to the cemetery. Daniel's grave was covered in new snow, but the marker still stood. Cole knelt, ignoring the cold soaking through his pants. I married her. Daniel, hope that's all right. His voice came out rough. I'll raise your girls like my own. Teach them what you would have taught them. Wind rustled the cottonwoods, sounding almost like an answer. I'm sorry I wasn't here. Sorry you died alone on that trail. Cole pulled out Daniel's compass, set it on the grave. But I'm here now, and I'm staying. Footsteps behind him, light ones, Claire and the girls. Uncle Cole, Emma said, then catching herself. Papa. Yeah, little one. Mama says we should put up a proper stone for Papa Daniel, with words on it. What kind of words? Rose spoke up, voice clear. Beloved husband and father, and uncle, and brother. That's a lot of ands, Cole said. He was a lot of things, Claire said, kneeling beside him. To a lot of people. They stayed there a while, the new family, saying goodbye to the old. When they finally stood to leave, Cole's left hand tingled. He flexed his fingers. They moved. Not perfect, but better. Look, Rose said, pointing. His fingers were working again, slow but steady. Doc Larson would later say it was coincidence, nerves healing on their own schedule. But Claire always believed it was Daniel's goodbye gift, giving Cole back his hands so he could work the land, hold the children, build the life Daniel couldn't finish. The wedding was that Sunday. Done proper this time. Sarah Wright played the piano with half the keys missing from storm damage. Emma and Rose threw dried flowers from last summer, saved in the root cellar. The whole town came, even those who'd lost their homes, wearing their best surviving clothes. Cole stood at the altar in Daniel's suit, altered by Sarah to fit. It still pulled tight across his shoulders. He was broader than Daniel had been, carried more muscle from harder years. His left hand was wrapped in bandages, but working. Claire wore her mother's dress, same one she'd married Daniel in, but she'd added something, a piece of lace from Margaret's dress, the one Cole had kept in his saddlebags. He'd offered it that morning, shy as a schoolboy. She would have wanted it used for happiness, he'd said. Reverend Mills read the service from a water-damaged Bible, pages rippling like waves. When he asked for objections, the whole church turned to look at the door, but Aldrich was in jail. Briggs was gone, and only friends remained. Do you, Cole Morgan, take this woman? I do. For richer or poorer, already been both, I do. In sickness and in health. Been that too, I do. Mills laughed. Let me finish. Cole. Sorry. Reverend, just want to be sure. When they kissed, the church erupted. Not just clapping, but whooping, hollering, boots stomping on the floor, the kind of noise that said a town had survived the worst and come through scarred but whole. The reception was in the church hall, what was left of it. One wall was boarded up, roof patched with canvas, but tables groaned under the weight of food everyone had contributed. Precious things, saved through the storm, canned peaches, smoked ham, a cake made with the last of someone's white flour. Cole sat at the head table, Claire beside him, the girls on his other side. His left hand could hold a fork now, though it shook. Emma cut his meat without being asked. Rose poured his coffee when his grip failed. Papa Cole, Rose said, testing the name again. When will you teach us more stars? Tonight, if it's clear? What if it's cloudy? Then tomorrow, or the next night. We've got time. Old Pete stood up, raised his glass of what was definitely not lemonade. To the Morgans, all of them. The toast echoed through the hall. Cole stood, raised his own glass with his good hand. To Daniel Morgan, who brought us together. To Cedar Ridge, which gave us a home. To neighbors who became family. He looked at Claire, at the girls, at the faces of people who'd stood by them. To second chances. They drank, even the children with their water glasses. Then the fiddle started up, and despite everything, the storm damage, the losses, the long winter still ahead, people danced. Cole couldn't dance yet, balance still uncertain, but he could sit with Rose on his lap, Emma leaning against his shoulder, Claire's hand in his, and watch their town celebrate survival. Late that night, after guests had gone and girls were asleep, Cole and Claire stood on their porch now, not just hers. The night was clear, stars sharp as glass. You really staying? Claire asked. No more looking down the road, wondering what's past the horizon. Cole pulled her close with his good arm. Everything I wondered about is right here. That's romantic talk for a practical man. You're rubbing off on me. They stood quiet, listening to night sounds, an owl, wind in the cottonwoods, the creek running strong with snow melt. I need to tell you something, Claire said. About Daniel. Cole waited. He knew he was sick. Before the drive. Had a cough that wouldn't quit, fever at night. Doc Larson told him not to go. Why did he? Said he had to. Said if something happened to him, you'd come. She turned in his arms, looked up at him. He knew you'd come, and he knew you'd stay. Said you just needed a reason to stop running. Cole's throat closed. He thought of Daniel, sick and pushing through, trusting his broken brother to save his family. He was right. He usually was. Claire reached up, touched the scar on Cole's jaw, the one from the war that Daniel had stitched up with sewing thread. We're your reason. You're my home. She kissed him then, soft and certain. Inside the house, one of the girls called out in sleep. Claire started to go, but Cole caught her hand. I'll go. He found Emma sitting up in bed, eyes wide in the dark. Bad dream. Dreamed you left. Cole sat on the bed, weight making the ropes creak. Want to know a secret? Emma nodded. I can't leave. Your mama's got my gun, my badge, and my heart. Man can't travel without those. You gave Mama your heart. No, little one. She took it. First time she pointed that shotgun at me. Emma giggled, settled back down. Papa. Yeah, I love you. The words hit harder than any bullet ever had. Cole bent, kissed her forehead, then Rose's. Love you too, both of you. He stood to go, but Emma's voice stopped him. Papa, will you teach me to shoot when I'm older? Cole thought of his gun, hanging useless in the barn, of all the men he'd killed wearing a badge, of Margaret and James, who he couldn't save with all his skills. I'll teach you to build, he said finally. To plant, to read the weather and gentle horses and fix what's broken. Those are better things to know. Better than shooting. Much better. Shooting ends things. Building makes them last. Emma seemed to think about this. Okay. Cole went back to his room, their room where Claire was already in bed, wearing a nightgown that had been mended so many times it was more thread than fabric. Everything all right? She asked. Everything's perfect. He hung his clothes on the peg next to hers, his boots next to her shoes, his life woven into hers like threads and cloth, impossible to separate without destroying both. Outside, clouds moved in from the west, not storm clouds this time, soft spring clouds that promised rain for the planted fields. Tomorrow he'd start teaching the girls to plant corn. Next week, they'd put up Daniel's stone marker. Next month, they'd start building a proper house with the gold money. But tonight, Cole Morgan, former marshal, former drifter, former lost soul, lay beside his wife and listened to his daughters breathing in the next room and felt something he'd thought burned away with Margaret and James. Peace. The gun belt stayed on its peg in the barn. Spring came and summer after, and it hung there still. Leather cracking in the heat, metal rusting in the rain. Sometimes the girls asked about it. Cole would say it belonged to another man, one who didn't exist anymore. And it was true. The man who'd ridden into Cedar Ridge seeking a grave was gone. In his place stood a farmer, a father, a husband, a man who taught stars instead of shooting, who built instead of destroyed, who'd learned that the greatest courage wasn't facing down outlaws, but facing each morning with hope instead of fear. Daniel had known, somehow, sick and dying. He'd known his broken brother just needed something worth fixing himself for. The last entry in Claire's diary that year, written in her careful hand. Cole's hands are fully healed. He carved a wooden horse for Rose's birthday, painted it white like Snowball. Emma helps him with the accounts now she has a head for numbers like her mother. The mine is paying out steady, enough to help rebuild the whole town. Sheriff Burt says Cole could be mayor if he wanted. Cole laughed, said he's got enough people to take care of. Sunday, after church, I found him at Daniel's grave, teaching the girls that constellation story about the farmer protecting his field. He looked up at me with those green eyes, Daniel's eyes but different, and said, I'm home, Claire, finally home. And I believed him. We all did. Connecting hearts. You know, I told you this story because I needed you to understand something that took me 70 years to learn. We're all walking around with holes in our hearts where loved ones used to be. Cole had Margaret and little James. Claire had Daniel. Those girls had their papa. But here's what I know now. Those holes don't need filling. They need honoring. Cole didn't replace Daniel. He stood beside his memory. The girls didn't forget their first papa when they loved their second. And Claire. She learned that hearts don't break, even they break open. Wide enough to hold the dead and the living, the past and the present, all at once. That's the real miracle. Not that we heal, but that we find others brave enough to love us with all our ghosts still visible. Note to readers. This story was inspired by traditional Western American tales and created solely for entertainment purposes. This narrative does not condone, encourage, or promote any form of violence or harmful behavior. All characters and events depicted are products of the author's imagination, and any resemblance to real persons, living or dead, or actual events is purely coincidental.